I think we're going to see a generation of innocence being corrupted before they even go through puberty,
Yeah.
which I've already seen. And I wonder why is a 10, 11-year-old on Instagram above all places?
Yeah.
That's like sending them to
Or
Los
why their
Angeles and saying,
mom-
go, good luck on your own.
And their mom's putting them up there.
Yep. I would walk 5,000 miles and I would walk 5,000 more.
Yeah.
We should
We
should
here's
do a
jazz. Jazz. I got the British accent in there. These brats.
That was
They invade everywhere.
just brats invade everything.
Yeah, they do. Thank you for the Anglo-Saxon language.
That engaged my rectus abdominis.
A good belly laugh will always make a day
A
brighter.
little belly laugh doesn't go with the pockets. Frodo Baggins.
I don't think Gandalf ever said that.
I'm just saying it because I like how people
bet
say
he
his name.
did.
Yeah. And it's frosty, thick.
I was thinking
accent.
about Mary the other day.
Mag-
From the Lord of the Rings.
Oh, like Magdalene or
No, Mary. No.
oh, Mary Pippin.
I was thinking. I love the actor, and I
Your
love the way
statue
he
of Mary.
sings. I know.
Your-
Wait. The guy who sings on there, is he Mary or Pippin?
Oh, when he's singing for the priestess, he's like eating the tomatoes and the juice.
Yeah, the juices. But the song is Billy. I forget his last name. He's a very good singer and haunting. Like-
that was really beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, but all his songs. He ends all of the Lord of the Rings with.
He's
his
saying,
songs.
I would walk 1,000 miles.
I don't think
500.
he has, but he would even do it in
Oh,
the
it's
slow.
500. I said 1,000. That was Vanessa Carlton. But sorry,
I
continue.
think I said 5,000 too. I said 10,000 miles.
Wait,
I would
whatever.
walk 5,000
500
miles.
miles.
I thought it was 5,000.
Well, we would go further than
in
they would. We put
inflationary-
in more effort.
No, inflationary terms, it would be 5,000 miles. You know what I mean?
yeah.
But we're not talking politics
We would
or
just
economics.
be, yeah.
Yeah, we're not. Hey, I do want to say something. Speaking, and this is not political. It sounds like it might be. But
Prefacing.
I was really, really impressed. I heard that the governor of Tennessee, my old stomping ground where I grew up, he had proclaimed July for his state as a month to fast and pray for the nation.
That's so Hadassah
It
of
w-
him.
it was-
so Esther-like.
Well, it was that, and then also Winston Churchill, proclaimed that over when it looked like Hitler was going to overrun, and he proclaimed a day of that. But this is a whole month, and I loved it. I thought it was really, really powerful. And so then I got to thinking, okay, what am I going to fast? Okay, what am I going to fast? Am I, fasting lunch? Breakfast, dinner, a whole day. And then I was like, what about the other kind of fast? And I was like, what would be the hardest thing for me to give up right now? And I don't have a chocolate problem, but I dwelled on it, and I thought, what is it? And I realized, Anna Grace Smith, I realized it was occasionally, it's not every night, but I'll pick up my phone, and I have quit scrolling news at night, right? I told you that.
Oh, yeah.
But I pick up my phone, and I am a short-aholic. I love reels. I'm a reel-aholic. And
Oh, another chimpanzee in a diaper.
no, I don't. I have sophisticated. I only have like Charlie Kirk or Elon Musk will pop up there. I have Tucker Carlson. I have that wonderful comedian we talked about. I can't say his name.
Russell Brand?
No, I love Russell Brand, but I haven't seen his reels. Haven't popped up.
Neil
but
Patrick
his
Harris.
Nick. No, I haven't. I don't know his reels. But Nick Bart. I can't say his name, but he's very funny. He's from Tennessee too. But he's a comic, and he's very funny and very clean. So I thought, okay, I'm going to do this. So last night, I was really tired, and I went to my phone, and I said, don't do it.
Was this Facebook, Instagram, or do you just have a secret
YouTube.
tab with
It's
reels?
YouTube.
Where you're like,
No,
I can't stop."
YouTube Reels. I don't know. I guess I forget all the other places have Reels too. But no, this is YouTube Reels because they tend to talk content. And I picked it up, and I saw the nice little square on my phone. I had 4 to choose from. There was Charlie Kirk, and there was Tucker, and there was Nick, the comic from Tennessee. his last name is Barge. I can't say it. And there was another one. I forget who it was. It could have been Elon, or I even get Bill Maher, whatever his name is.
Dang, you listen to all the elitists.
Yeah, I
like,
love it.
Better end of thing.
Yeah, well, and so I almost tapped on it and just said, and in the back of my head, it was like, well, what does it, just once. Just
like another drink.
Just once.
Ooh.
And I went, oh. Because did I promise God I would do this? No. But did I say that's what I'm going to fast? I said yes. I said yes to myself. Yes to praying for the country. And I went, this was my fast I chose. And it was so tempting. My finger wanted to press go play so badly. And I went, no, I can't do that. And it was just like the last minute, I went, no, I have to give this up. So the hold of media is a real thing.
So how did you feel when you abstained from your phone for the evening?
I only do it I only do it, on like weekends or
take a puff of social.
Yeah, just take a puff of, just one hit. I'll do it, on Friday. And usually Saturday, even though I'm going to church Sunday. And I don't watch anything inappropriate. It's all great content. I'm
like
learning from it, all this kind of stuff. Learning how to, stand for, what my beliefs are. But I felt really good. But at the same time, I realized I have a true struggle here, and it has shaped my life. I didn't know what reels were. I didn't know what reels were until 2 years ago? I'm like, so it's so easy to be consumed by that little rectangle. So, what are we talking about today?
No, I like hearing the agony because we were just having a conversation with our wonderful Sarah Walters and Dylan Dry about the intoxication of social media. And I've had this conversation many a time, especially the past month as well, because I think it's the one addiction of society that's not labeled as such. And we think of sobering up from stuff as being, like from substance abuse, alcohol, which you recently shared your story of that in an episode we just recorded. But I don't think we're really asking ourselves, why am I doing this? And I think that you already started to hit the nail on the head with that one question you asked yourself, which was like, what am I trying to gain from this? Why am I doing this?
Yeah.
And I think that there's so much power in taking, I guess it could be like digital inventory on something like digital media, because it forces you to ask why you're repeating this behavior over and over, and having the self-awareness of something versus just doom scrolling, wondering why nothing's getting done in life, or like what, I don't know, like sometimes I'll be on an app, or when I have my apps on my phone, and I'll be looking at something, or even my own content, just like figuring out like, what do I write? What do I post? Do I want to connect? Do I want to, am I bored? Am I numbing out? And like not really knowing why I'm on this, with like the sea of people.
So this is interesting.
But I don't care about reels, but my mom loves reels. Yes. So it's like different things for each of us.
It may be, but I don't watch TV.
Yeah,
but
same.
I realize, what is the difference between this? A reel and it's very deceptive. But the rectangle is so easy. It's so easy. So what we want to talk about, I think, today is, what did you do to not accept the apple and take a bite out of it?
The forbidden fruit of Steve Jobs.
Yes, and it is, because it can be used for good. But what happens when it starts overruling our lives? And what do we see? How do we see that our lives have changed?
Sorry, I'm envisioning Steve Jobs as our logo for this, and like the loincloth in the Garden of Eden.
Yes.
Continue with his tablet.
It would be Photoshop,
you're on a roller.
He's no longer here.
Sorry, his tombstone.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Sorry, continue.
And how it's really, really changed society, and how it's changing our ability to communicate and be in relationships. And so I think
But like, I think it's with anything, like there's some things that are inherently evil, right? But there are other things, taboo topics, which we never talk about, that aren't inherently bad, but you can take what's good and use it for self gains, for the wrong purposes, and ultimately, I think evil is maybe a little strong, but also maybe not, because social media, for example, like it connects us to people all around the world. You can talk to somebody who's in Hong Kong or, across the pond, and you don't have to wait for a letter to reach them weeks later, and
that's true.
You are able to connect with loved ones and share your life. And I know it's interesting to think back when it really first hit this scene too, and why everyone initially got on. So I was like, oh, it's a school thing. You can post pictures.
Oh, no, it went way further than that.
I know MySpace.
Well, no. I remember opening my first computer and looking at it, and all you would see is and I know I've mentioned this before, the little cursor in MS-DOS, and you're like, now what? Because there wasn't Word, there wasn't documents, or if there was, it was very, very new. There wasn't any internet. There was no Wi-Fi at that time, all this stuff. And if you did have it, it was dial-up. So it was really...
I remember when you plug it in, you couldn't be on the landline at the same time.
You could not.
Make the awful screeching
and then
Nazgul-y
usually
sound.
You got booted off.
Yeah.
But it's been such an evolution of getting sucked into it as a construct, of society, that you bemoan the fact, and we all do. We all talk about, I remember Lily calling me down one time at a family dinner saying, Mom, put away your phone. And I was waiting on somebody to text or something. And she's like, put the phone away. And I'm like, ooh, being called out by my daughter. So, I try to put the phone away during all this, but there is something very, very enticing about it when I'm tired, angry, hungry, lonely, tired, stressed, all that, the Haltz thing, that I want to give into it. And so the deal is there's a pool. And you said something very interesting when you were talking. You said, I'm 3 months sober from social media.
Well, it's because I quite literally had to take the same kind of inventory, and that initially the question you asked yourself when you decided to fast from it for the day.
No, for the month.
For the whole month.
Yes.
Whoa.
But I was already being tempted. July 4th. July 4th. I think it's a holiday, July 4th. I don't have to fast.
I shan't hold my phone and be like, take a bite, Renee.
No.
It's delicious.
Please don't.
Just to lick the screen.
No.
Back in January, I realized that it was instinctive, even if I was just clicking my email. So I started off, I took about a month and I mentally agreed with myself, I'm going to just notice why I'm logging on every time. I'm not going to judge it, not going to make a disciplinary action. Just going to see, like, am I bored? Am I trying to numb out? Am I trying to post something meaningful? Is it, so just seeing why am I actually doing it? And I realized that the ratio was far higher, and at the end of the day, or in any in-between time in between clients, or, any pocket of time I wasn't doing some sort of action and there's downtime, it was instinctive that I would go reach for my phone, scroll on, whether it's texting someone or just constantly having this ongoing conversation. Like, I noticed I felt rather hooked on that, and especially the apps. Like, there's something so enticing that this would be me, like, in an NA meeting, or if there's like a social media anonymous meeting, about having notifications, seeing people looking at your things, seeing the profiles looking at your stories, because it made me feel really engaged, even if it could be like 500 people who I barely even know and never ever reach out to. They never reach out to me, but there's something that felt so like connective about it. So I started realizing that. then the last couple months were very difficult in their own special ways. Went through a lot of personal stuff,
You
and
really did.
I realized very quickly. It was actually I was in Costa Rica because I genuinely love stories are like a high of their own, and I
You
really
do them very well.
thank you,
Yeah,
but they
you
really
do.
are fun. And I go back and I do look at them, but I started to think to myself, am I really so concerned with hooking up to Wi-Fi to have to post this stuff that I can't appreciate it for what it is in the moment that it is? And I also, I actually told my
yes.
parents this last night. I was like,
Yes.
you know, in April or the end of March, early April, when I was still like just dealing with, recovering from some things, I really, and I'm still getting over, the personal, not everything that was happening then, but just the emotional levels it takes you to. But I was really like depressed, really numb. Like just even in Costa Rica, I was really enjoying the time. It was this like beautiful distraction, which is what I realized social media was becoming for me too. But in that same breath, I almost felt like, okay, I'm going to prove to myself that I'm more okay than I actually am inwardly because like I'm doing all these things, I'm filling up all my time. But I'm like, am I being completely honest? Because like, yes, this is amazing and it's great. But to anyone looking, and someone pointed this out, my friend Jim at the coffee shop,
Oh, good old Jim.
he said, man, it's crazy because you never know. Because I like opened up to him a little bit about just like what I was dealing with emotionally. And he's like, you would never know by your social media. He's like, because it looks like you have the time of your life. And I'm like, well, I was. But could also, you can tailor it, right? So all that to say, I was realizing I was having a lot of different great awakenings, but ultimately I was nearly obsessed, and I don't say that term lightly, with the open window it gives you to other people, for other people seeing your stuff, for feeling like, okay, these moments that I am truly experiencing joy, if it's posted, it looks like I'm permanently there. So I'm not going to seem like, I'm actually in a state of brokenness and dealing with all of these
So you're
thoughts.
saying your appearance comes off as your life is perfect, just like everybody else's.
Yeah,
Except
really.
for the real honest people like Lena.
Well,
Boderinka.
I also felt like I would be honest about hardship on social media. So I don't only post the highs, but I felt like I was almost lying to myself, and I don't want to say overemphasizing it, because if you scroll on my post too, like I'm pretty open about like
very,
different. I'm not saying that to like I'm a great middle ground of it, but I'm okay with. I probably overshare sometimes, but with the lows are just like my own human experience of stuff and pain, suffering. Enneagram 4 here. But yeah, I realized among all of it, I am obsessed with my phone. I'm obsessed with social media. And at first I tried, I'm like, I'm just going to keep the apps on and just limit my time.
Right.
But it's that constant tug. It's like this magnetic force. It's like, I need to just
Check.
Yes. And not
Yes.
even doom scrolling people's stuff, but like Facebook kind of became my savior when I was 14 because I felt very invisible and unseen. Right. And when I started actually getting good at photography and I could make myself look good in self-portraits, which one-upped everyone else's point-and-shoot cameras, I genuinely felt seen. Like people would comment and I would see that. Whereas I felt kind of like the ugly duckling when I was 13, 14, was really socially awkward. And that gave me my like, oh, I'm better at photography than some of these people. I can one up this. And that I think cycled into, even if I'm more honest now, like the obsession with like image.
Yes.
That's a word spill. Does that make sense?
No. That makes a whole lot of sense.
That's a lot of thoughts in one blah, 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 spill.
With that you gave up. You've been without social media for 3 months.
Almost 3 months.
Oh, which is amazing.
At the end of July.
I was not born into social media. So the way we communicated.
Typewriters.
Well, but the way we communicated was the telephone. So I would, and I talked about this before, but, it was fun to go to my grandparents' house because they would have, both of them had the party line, and you could hear other people talking, and I was a great snoop. But
like you pick up the other
and you could hear that. You could like, oh, because I had nobody to call at 9 years old. I just wanted to hear someone talk. So, but then we had a private line at home, and then we would crank call people. But nevertheless, what do you think is the difference? Because for us to talk to people back then, you had to be in the same room or you wrote letters.
That's what I appreciate about your generation, though. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to over romanticize, because I know every generation and era has its own crap show. Some are just concealed better than others. But down to dating, I think you guys got a lot right. There's a lot, again, everyone gets wrong in each one. But you guys didn't have iPhones. You didn't have Facebook. You didn't have Instagram. Like, at least, I mean, did you feel more connected? I want to hear from your thoughts, though, because you actually lived in that generation.
Well, I want to go back
to
something I want to do, and I do want to say this is in my blog, so go on ReneeLeonardKennedy.com and look at love letters, because I go into it, and that was a shameless plug, and I have no problem.
Oh, go ahead.
But my sister and I were in a room upstairs after my parents, we had to clean out my parents' stuff, and we were in her gigantic put-all closet, which was very well organized. But you had your Christmas stuff here, you had these, you had books, you blah, blah, blah. And I was tired. It was at the end of the day, and we had to go. I needed to get back here. And I said, Robin, I am so tired. And she picks up my sister's, whereas I'm big picture, like, okay, this, let's give away, that goes to somebody else. She's like, what's in the little box? What's in and she wants to go through it. She's very, very detail oriented, which makes her a beautiful person. But when you're in a rush to leave is not a good thing. So she picks up this really old shoebox. It had to be a 1953 shoebox, and maybe 1955. And I go, Rob, and she plops down on the floor. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I need to get on the road, because I had a 3.5 hour drive. And I'm looking around, at the plastic ornaments and all the glass ornaments, and trying to figure out what to do. And she pulls these, and all of a sudden she gets real quiet, and I'm not thinking anything about it, because I'm trying to wonder what to do with the life-size carolers, mechanical carolers that sing.
That's kind
of those scary. Go back to my sister in heart, Carol. She gave Mom those. Those are hers.
Almost like gnomes.
Yeah, they really are. Oh. But and I didn't touch the buttons, because it creeps me out when they start doing their little thing. So
doing the
I was sitting here thinking all these big picture things, and my sister goes, and very quietly, I just adore her heart. She goes, Renee, and that tore me at the way she said my name, because my mind was going a million miles a moment. She goes, Renee, you need to see what I found. I'm like, oh, okay. What is it? And she pulled out love letters from my parents.
Oh, my
written in when Dad was going into the Navy for the Korean War. And they were going back and forth writing. And he hadn't set sail yet, so he had gone to he was going to training. He was talking about it. And this is after 50-something years marriage, and they had passed away separately, with 4 years in between. And their marriage, it was, they were always a united front, but it had just highs and lows like everybody else's, and there was a lot going on, and they went through some things in the sense of culturally that we can only imagine, from having a TV into their house to all of a sudden going all the way to, an iPhone, I mean, big span, various wars, all these kind of things, recessions, presidents, you name it. They had lived a long life. And so to see these precious love letters, it was amazing. And we would not have this documentation had two things not happen. My sister, had she not stopped me from rushing around and going to the lesser things, which kind of is social media at times, and had she not paused, and had my parents not written, we have these beautiful, beautiful letters, and they were just touching and precious. And I think that's what is lost. I think me growing up, the connection was there. Dylan Dry was talking about how we used to get together as a neighborhood. Now, there's a lot going on conflicted-wise. But I even remember my children, who are now 30, 33 and 31, 32. Yes. Who, would play games out on a summer evening. And they made up this game called, I forget, what it was not Outlander, but it's something. It was wild. And the
Cops
rules,
and robbers.
Well, but the rules, it was so interesting because my daughter would watch and say, well, they changed the rules again. So it was never changed. It was always changing. But they loved doing that. And Dylan Wright just said, like, nobody does that anymore.
And nobody writes letters anymore either. Like, I think what you share with your parents' letters is so profound because there's something so, and I'm not saying it's just about the letter writing in of itself, but that's a form of connection unlike anything we have today, unlike anything a digital screen can provide. Even if you send like a text monologue telling someone how great they are, like there's something about, I think it's time people taking for others, like adjusting their day and their habits. Right. Whereas now we like constantly have this like rectangle to scroll through. Whereas before that existed, you had to find, I think just naturally would find ways to not just occupy time, but to be with people and to write to people because you wanted to be connected, because that's the only way you knew to be connected. And I don't think that it was even something that had to be thought of as like, oh, I have to cultivate this time. Because like I remember playing with the neighbor kids outside too. Like we would play till sunset, like hide and go seek tag, play tag with like barefoot, jump on the trampoline. We create stories and act them out. And
you used your imagination.
Yeah. And I think what you just said about like with that, the imagination is so much more stimulated and creative.
I think
and
William Blake said, imagination is evidence of the divine.
That's so beautiful.
And I have that saying written on a plaque. And I think that's what is missing in all this, is we don't leave anything to the imagination, so to speak, on social media. # go see our porn videos. But at the same time,
topics on porn.
But we miss the imaginary play that kids had, the innocent one. The innocent ones where, they were making games up. And, the idea of making a game up now is, a kid will sit there and, well, how do you play it? Yeah. Instead of like, what can we make up? We've lost the visionary.
We're given too much. It's like overconsumption. Like we think of overconsuming as in like food and gluttony. And I'm actually reading a book that I'm going to get stoned for saying this. And my salvation will be questioned, which I've said like on 5 other episodes. I was given a book by a Hindu man.
Oh, right.
Because I'm like, if we expect people to read the Bible, we should be open to reading what they are giving us.
He was an art, their text. Yeah.
Well, he's an art gallery owner. And so we had this like deeply spiritual conversation. He knows like, that I follow Christ's teachings, and beautiful man, like in his 80s. And he gives me this book. And I mean, obviously it's on like, they use Krishna consciousness, but the actual old text in and of itself, it changed something in me. Not in a way of, oh, I'm switching religions, but it is talking about the idea of simple living and high thinking, and calls out the overconsumption of like alcohol, sex, demanding more and more versus finding this peaceful, not pushing this threshold so much, and finding this not even just contentment with what you have, but in being, pursuing intention and quality with what's right in front of you, and not this constant longing for more in these different ways. And obviously it goes deeper into them. And so he gifted it to me. So I was like, sure, I'll read it. But I was like, wow, it totally reflects, without it, trying to sound like I'm comparing it to, oh, it's the same as the Bible, but the actual bare bones of what it's saying completely reflects, I think, biblical teaching. And I'm like, it's just interesting how it focuses on that. But like the simple living, high thinking, I think is what we're missing. We let everything else think for us, you know, and we're stimulated by what everybody else is doing.
Okay, let me say something. I had a conversation.
Oh, get it, girl.
Last night.
Get it, Bible.
To a loved one. Or the night before, and I said, you are You're feeding your body, not just with food, but with your love of exterior. Of your,
You said that to someone?
I did. And someone I love very much. I said, and I realized that I used this word. I said, you're starving your brain and you're starving your soul.
Oh,
and that's what that book is
dang.
saying. Because we are
That's
we are
good.
missing when we are on social media. And now we can read devotionals and all this, and they do lead us to deeper things. But instead of walking hand in hand with the Lord and going outside and enjoying nature and letting Him speak to us, we are driving it from like, I need to go see what somebody said about this.
Yeah.
We are being robbed. We are starving our souls and our hearts and our minds.
It almost implements FOMO in us that we're missing out on something.
Yeah.
And Mom and I were talking about this last night because she was talking about how there are a few people who will like speak of people one way and then post of them in another, like, oh, you're the best thing since sliced bread. And she's like, I know they're deeper issues. She's like, it really creates this facade.
Oh, wow.
And I echoed it completely because I
never thought about that.
I've seen it too, though. It's interesting because I will talk to people, I mean, just throughout the years, ever since social media has existed in my own hands.
Which has been your whole life.
Well, up until I was like 14, because I remember a time totally before it too.
Right.
So I definitely wouldn't say I was just like born onto it. So I have those few years prior. But yeah, for most of my life, unfortunately, it's or at least half of it. But you see their real life version, but then you see the social media version. And again, it's not that all of the good moments are inherently bad, but it's like when you log on to Facebook or Instagram or YouTube or Snapchat or, oh my gosh, what did we have when I was 17? Vine. Though that's extinct now. That's like vintage.
Vintage.
I found mine from when I was 17, which was a slightly scarring experience in the archives. But that's another topic.
Yeah, it's still on there, right?
It gives us way more information than we need.
Right.
And I think when we were talking to Dylan and Sarah earlier, they also hit the nail on the head with their conversation they were having and the idea that if you're not actually already engaging with these people, like, why do you have to keep up with them?
Right.
And the biggest, because I know so many business owners who have the exact same ideology that I've started adopting with it. Like, I want to live simpler.
Right.
I don't want to keep up with everybody. But what's the one thing hanging on? And like, well, business. But it's like, even from a business standpoint, I'm like, do we have to have it? Or is it just a limiting belief? And are we setting these things on ourselves so that we almost force ourselves to have this? And in the process of trying to do something really great, like whether it's for a business purpose or connectivity to others or keeping up with others, is that actually robbing us of the very thing we're trying to attain? If that makes sense.
You know what?
Does that make sense?
When I went on my writing vacay with Shonda, who's a perfect writing partner, because she'll write her stuff, I'll write my stuff, and we'll meet in the middle, and then we'll go back and do our stuff, and it was wonderful. But I said something to her about social media and how in the platform, they always push that as writers, platform. And it does matter. But then she goes, and I've often thought of that. And she goes, what about prayer? I'm like, what about the best platform you can have would be the Lord God Almighty and His ear, and just saying, whether it's book sales or writing, writing with Him, I have found more joy saying, Lord, okay, this morning I did it. Before we started podcasting, I said, and I had 30 minutes. I said, we have 30 minutes. Let's go see what we can do. I said, please, I was inviting Him in because He's there. But I wanted to acknowledge the fact that the King and the Lord of Lords is in the imagination, which is being robbed, I think, by social media. So it's a delightful thing. I think when you look at what else is being robbed here, when you hear the statistic, like 40% of 12 to now college-age girls have proclaimed to be a member, no longer interested in the opposite sex, but of something else, one of the letters. that number is so significant in the sense that it's so huge.
Do you say 12 to 16%?
No, it's 40%.
40%?
Yeah, and I forget where I
Wow.
got that information from. I think it might have been Breitbart. I don't know where it was. And I was like, this is, and then everyone's trying to think, everyone's really, really trying to be standout individual. But by doing that, we're collectively all looking like we're happy on social media, or we're all against this, against that, or we are a member of this, this letter. And so in a way, what we're doing is we are losing our individuality, and we're just joining up with whatever is on social media that's popular. So when everyone thinks, I'm going to be free, I'm original, it's not. It's just like when I was in the 60s, in the 70s and 60s, wanting bell bottoms because everybody else had bell bottoms. And now guess what I'm wearing and dancing? Bell
Bell
bottoms.
bottoms, sparkly, sequiny bell bottoms.
And they look really, they're
itself.
really a great cut.
They really look good.
They're a great cut.
You looked hot dancing in them.
But would I ever...
Link in description.
If they would only make them out of farmer material that...
Like cowhide?
No. Well, I hadn't thought about that. But no, the micro... absorbent kind of
vegan,
whatever
suede.
But I think what's stunning about this is it is misdirecting us in such a bad way, and this is where we're failing as grandparents, parents, as people ourselves. We have to look at ourselves. My age. So why are we taking our cues from how other people are living when we call ourselves Christians? And we have the Word of God that tell us how to live. So I think the deal is we have been misdirected in so many ways. We've also been directed in really great ways. For better, we have learned about sex trafficking. For worse, we have created the vehicle for more sex
trafficking. Right. That's the thing. It's like, it's like which one outweighs the other.
Yes.
And it's interesting you bring that up because rolling around in my brain is quite literally how sexualized it all becomes. And I feel like I harp on this so much, but we live in a generation now where it's literally girls who have like scripture in their bio and then plastering their Instagram with their body parts, their bikini thongs, their shameless selfies. They're perfectly filtered, like, I don't even know what the term is for it because I don't have the effects on my phone, but like they're visco filters that you can like have perfect skin, nails. Then guys are looking at this and seeing this as the idea of like what a woman should be. Then like, men in their own special way. It's just like, it's this ego stroke we all can create, so it's like sexualized imagery as a part of the problem by the constant access. And it's not even, you don't even have to buy the magazine for it. I don't want to get on a porn tangent here, but like that.
It is the heartbreak of it. And more than that, we don't have to wait on it.
Yeah.
We don't have to wait on it anymore. And where our faith and several other faiths say, whether they abide by it is up to the people. But, we wait on it until we're married. That's the way it was. God designed it, not because he was a God saying, oh, I don't want you to have fun. He said, I know the best way for you. This is going to make it good and right, because otherwise you're going to be comparing. You're going to be living with these things in your head for the rest of your life that you have done with other people. And by the way, when you go to sleep with somebody, your first time, your husband, Olsen, how are you going to stop those things from coming?
I'm thinking of the kitty cat filter on their face on Instagram.
Seriously.
Oh my gosh.
But it is robbery that is going on all the time. But Mark from Lantern Rescue said, remember what he said?
Oh, we love Mark.
We love Mark. And he said, why would a guy or why would a girl want to be in a relationship with one guy when she could be in a relationship with 200 people who are paying her X amount of dollars per day? And I don't know OnlyFans. I imagine there's other reasons for it, But I do have heard plenty of people. There was a young lady who was baptized and she got off OnlyFans, who was making considerable amount of money.
Yeah.
And so it has, I don't know if it does help relationships and being able to talk to people across the world. WhatsApp, you get to do that, but it's also hurt.
But then guess what? You connect, like, say you do long distance, or say like you're even just talking to someone. There's 50 other girls who can also slide into their Snapchat, slide into their DMs, or even for people who are married. You just think about the constant access it has. Because then we're talking about the like overconsumption idea. Because it's like we have people's photos of what they're doing, but then we also have too much access just to people.
Right.
And I think about how
it's overwhelming.
and how it can just, even in relationships, marriages, I have seen it ruin so much. And even if it's not something that's blatantly, even if it's not blatant infidelity or something like that, there's sometimes people who it's like you would otherwise, you wouldn't see again in your life unless you happen to bump into them. But you have, again, that like constant bubble.
Yeah. And
to
you
them
have
where
to
it's
hear
like,
from them. Wonder what they said to me today.
Yeah.
So
oh man, it just creates so many problems. Yeah. Or the fire emoji on stories.
Yeah.
Again, just like these constant access where sometimes people aren't even realizing they're using it maybe in the wrong way, or it's coming across in the wrong way. But it creates this whole world that is separate from reality, but it's all on this digital box, and it creates such a secret life.
Isn't it weird? It's a ripoff, just like the enemy always does. It's a ripoff of imagination.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden, it takes the veil off of it. And instead of you coming up with creative things, you watch other people being creative for you. Why can't I be like them?
And they're so perfect. They have such a perfect life.
Or, while you're in your marriage, you could be connecting with your husband. You're connecting with somebody else online who's perfect.
Yeah. And people who, people who also, like, can't even appreciate experiencing something with somebody for what it is. Like, it bothers me when constantly a phone is shoved to me, like, take a picture of me doing this, take a picture of me doing that. I'm like, can't you just enjoy? Like, I understand, but the constant, like, having to portray yourself so perfectly, or like, I need to be seen with in this place, at this particular spot. Like, even on some travels, it can be exhausting.
Yeah, you can miss
absolutely
the moment.
I was gonna say a really dirty word. I ain't to not. It can be very exhausting.
Well, and I was thinking about what you said, because I mentioned this one other time. I was taking a walk on the farm, and I went, oh, I'm just going to take a picture of that. That's so beautiful. And I left my phone. I've purposely, on my walks, tried to leave my phone at home. Not because of it. I didn't take it for pictures. I took it really for a safety thing. Like, I want the girls to come get me if I'm out in the
just face plant in the corner.
Yeah, I want someone come over to get me if I'm kissing the grass. And call 911 and deal with it that way. But I left it at home, and I went, it was the most beautiful sunset. And I went, you know what? God, that's between me and you.
Oh, that's good.
This is glorious. And it is a way, it's stealing our worship.
That's true. Almost like marveling at what is right in front of us that's meant to be with our five main senses.
And this is where it went with me on the this morning. So I'm still in the Old Testament with the kings, and I'm like, doggone it, can't one of them finish well and strong? And I wrote on my Bible, I said, Lord, please help me be somebody who finishes strong. I don't want to live, because a lot of them will just get right there, and then they'll do that one thing. And it's not that God's a rule keeper, but he is. But he does it out of love. Like, this is not the way you should go. This is not the path you should take. This is the path I'm showing you. But they didn't take down the high places. They didn't take down the high places. They did everything right in the Lord, with the Lord, but they didn't take the high places, which were extremely bad places of false worship. It's where they sacrificed babies, all this other stuff. And I'm thinking, okay, Lord, let me finish well. Let me finish well. And then I realized it all went back. I was praying. And then I was like, oh, Lord, that's what reels do.
Ooh,
You
compared the reels to the
and
cape.
I put it, all of a sudden, it came together in this beautiful understanding. My sister was talking about my brother in heart, who's since gone to be with the Lord, and how he would pray at night. He would end his night by praying for, his family, praying for all his nieces and nephews, praying for the country. He had a very rich prayer life in the morning and at night. And I realized when I'm praying at the altar of the rectangle and watching reels, I'm wasting my time that I could speak to the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, the God Almighty, about situations, about other people. And I'm wasting this, and I like purposed this morning. I was like, I need to end my day with that. That is the best social media I could do.
And like creating this space for that.
Yeah, and it was like
That's
it all
so
came together
true.
with the governor and the media, my brother in heart, and the Old Testament ending well. And I think that's the question for us all: is where is it all going? Yes, but where are we now in the story of this?
Well, I think what I've realized too, or at least in myself, I think I can speak for a lot of others, but we're afraid to sit with our own thoughts.
Oh yeah.
Because
wow.
What I realized in taking that away is, insert colorful word. It's just me and my thoughts and my not loneliness, but my aloneness. And I'm so afraid of what's inside of me, and opening my app, even if not to scroll, but just to look at something. Even my email. That's when I realized it was a problem. Like, why am I chronically checking my email now that I deleted my social media apps? There's nothing pressing. And I'm like, it's to distract.
It's not like I'm going to go pay that bill anyway.
Right. Duke Energy. I'm not even going to give you the time of day at 10 p.m.
But I need to know if you're there.
There are those quiet hours that can feel really scary. And I think it's okay to admit that. And I think it's okay to admit that there are some thoughts and things we're dealing with that are too much for us to handle, and even which can be the most beautiful place in prayer. And that's why I started to learn, like on a few episodes ago, when I mentioned crying in my kitchen floor, when we each had our own special breakdowns in our own ways. Yours seems so much healthier though, like in the fields, like in wonder. And I'm just like,
it was pretty. I mean, they're still kicking the pants, They were kicks in the pants.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that to like rationalize it, but I'm like, wow, taking a walk among the fields and silence. That's so like healthy to gut yourself that way. But I think sometimes we're afraid of what's inside.
Yes.
Or at least I am, because I know the things that I can stuff in like the, corners of my mind that I know is a problem. Things I really don't want to talk about to people, much less to God, even though God's all knowing and can see what I've stuffed in the file cabinets and tried to ball up and paper shred. And I think there's something interesting that happens when you give something up that has been like an odd toxic therapy, whether it's the bottle, whether it's a pill, whether it's CBD teas and THC edibles, or social media, where you are stripped bare of everything. And it's you and the quiet and your thoughts. And it's overwhelming. So overwhelming. Especially when you do everything to distract. Like there was in the springtime, a situation where I thought, all right, I'm going to process this like a guy would. Like, because guys just fill their schedules up with time. They distract and they just kind of drown stuff out, even though eventually it's all going to hit you at some point. So I was like, all right, let's book out the calendar the next few months. Well, guess what happens? You get a few months later and you're like, oh,
I've just pushed the ball down the field.
Yes. And that is what every single app became for me, and that it wasn't allowing me that even sacred space, like in how you're describing ending your day with prayer and not, political reels and like, insert whatever your, I call it drug of choice.
But I want to ask you a question here, because I think this is where it's at. Because I had talked in the last thing where I was talking about my alcoholism and how when I stopped, I had to start feeling my feelings.
Yeah.
And that's what you're talking about.
Yes.
You're having to feel your feelings without filling it up with something else. What do you think that's going on with the 12-year-olds up? I mean, they're even younger, but let's just say 12-year-olds, because that's a dicey time. Yeah, well, that's a time where, they're more than preteens anymore. They're practically 35-year-olds. What do you think this is going to do to these generations? Because are they stopping and pausing? I know they have deep thoughts. I do think there's evidence of them writing it down and journaling. Just, the beautiful thing about most women is eventually down the line, if they have a piece of paper and a pencil, they're going to write their thoughts down. It seems to be kind of natural to us. But what do you think this is all going to do to them, besides have their body parts manipulated or their sex organs reduced to unfunctioning?
A lot of things. I think it's going to contribute to mood disorders. I'm not saying this from a psychological standpoint. Disclaimer. This is Anna Gray's hypothesis. Mood disorders,
which we have already seen.
Obsessive compulsive disorders, hypersexualization. I think your mental health, and we've talked about this in several other episodes, is so integrated spiritually, physically. And when that starts to find ways to numb out or, again, have these learned behaviors, I think we're going to see a generation of innocence being corrupted before they even go through puberty, which I've already seen. And I wonder, why is a 10, 11-year-old on Instagram above all places? That's like sending them to Los Angeles and saying, go, good luck on your own.
And their moms put them up there.
Yep. Parents like exploiting their own children. It disgusts me immensely.
In an American way.
Yes.
Well, just
I think it's setting girls up to essentially be a lot of things that they weren't created to be, and to view themselves in a light that what they look like, what their body parts are for someone else's gains, is what makes them a woman, and I think they're not going to find ways to healthily cope with their problems that are going to occur whether or not you have social media, because life is imperfect and we all are a crap show, at times. But, I think it's going to cause a generation to lose the ability to actually just mentally process things.
That's what I'm worried about.
Even writing, the hardest for me to even blog or write in my journal when I was on social media, I would get my pen or I'd start to type, and it was like nothing would come out because I was so used to just like blurbs or these short stacks. So getting to a point where I could start gutting myself coherently and writing down my thoughts more fully was a process, and I already was doing that before social media hit the scene. But I was seeing how social media was robbing that. I would almost feel like I'm so reliant on this digital box and the constant short attention span.
This is it, because this is when you found that wonderful 1952 UN thing on TV. Remember that document? They were talking about it, and they were talking about the mind control. And you think about how the 30-minute segments, with advertising spots have shaped us. Now, I grew up that way. You wanted all of a sudden the Mattel Barbie doll I wanted the Barbie RV because it was cool. I wanted the house, because they sell it.
The effeminate Ken doll, because he has
because he's so great.
He has perfect brows.
I know, because you have to be with a man all the time. But no, whatever. We were my attention span was even then being sucked in.
Yeah.
Now I will say
the commercialization
I will
of
say
it.
the best show on was Star Trek. So I can't.
Those Mr. Spock bangs just get you like.
Well, no, but I like the imagination behind it. That was really great.
True.
But that started training us for 30-minute hits. That started, and then you think social media.
30 seconds.
Yes, 30 seconds. And then you think our wonderful Reels specialist, whom I can't watch her Reels right now, Sarah Walters.
You can't watch Sarah's Reels because you're fasting from Reels.
Well, but she was showing us how many seconds people lasted on our Reels.
Only 20 when there's 10 more to go.
She goes, that is wonderful. They're staying on there 20 seconds. And I'm like, 20 seconds?
Losers.
Yeah. No, I was like, that's amazing. What it was like, seriously, our attention span is 20 seconds.
Did you find that? Okay, I'm curious because you're coming from a place where you love Reels, but you also are an author and you read a lot.
Yes.
Do you find that affected you in any sort of way, or did you find that it wasn't? You were just addicted to the Reel?
I just treated it. I think I caught it soon enough and a great. No, I will go back to Reels one day. I really will. But I really, honestly, what it really bugged me that I was doing it in the evening right before I went to bed as a soother. And instead going to the Lord God Almighty. So, but I don't think it has affected my writing. Except for I've always written, and I write, but I love writing in the morning. No, I'm not an 8-hour writer. Some people write 8 hours. I don't do that. I need breaks in between. The thing is, you have to recognize as a writer what you're like. I don't know if it has stolen. I know you have to write when you write little things for Instagram. It's got to be different than that. This one's got to be different than that. And I really do love blogs because blogs to me, they're different avenues. Like,
it is.
Like my book, I have my short stories and Sweet Romance for Every Season by In-Game Press. I have 2 short stories in there. There's a time and place for a short story. There's time and places for a longer book. So I don't think it's affected that.
I'm just curious. I mean,
I read Anna Karenina.
Your daughter pointed out something really interesting because I appreciate what you said on that note because I think so often we wait till something is an addiction to then do something about it. Because your lovely Lee and I had sushi the other night, and so we were catching up on life, gutting our souls, all the fun stuff. And I said, "Yeah, I've given up alcohol for the rest of the year." And it took her a second. She's like, "Wait, really?" Because I'm not. She knows, just like yourself, like I'm not alcoholic. I have boundaries with it. And I was talking about like social media stuff to like, I need a break from it. And she said something so profound. She said, "That's really good." She said, "Because a lot of people wait till it's an addiction to do something about stuff. Or you don't, how she say, you don't have to wait till something's an addiction to know it's still a problem for you." Wow. So with the Reels, with social, like whether or not it's like, oh, it's all consuming. Like I think about Lord of the Rings when the guy gets the crystal ball. It's like, wow.
He does.
That's me with Facebook.
Well, and remember, it wasn't whichever, we were talking about Merry and Pippin, whichever one it was. He wanted.
Was he the singer, the opera singer singing in foreign language?
Was he the one who touched it?
Ooh, I want to learn to sing in Elvish on my time
I think it was. Yes, it was. Yes. That would be good. And you can write in Elvish too. But it's always so ephemeral. But no, he was. I mean, the thing is, he would hunt that. He wanted more of that globe.
Yeah.
He wanted more of the globe. He wanted to see. I mean, his curiosity had driven him.
Then he gets whacked with a stick. Like, I don't want that from God.
But once he saw the real effects of it. His eyes were opened. He did not want to see anymore at that point.
Well, I think that with, the Holy Grail and Savior that is social media, to so many of us, whether it's something we realize, like yourself, that, well, this isn't affecting my day-to-day life in these insane ways, but you noticed just enough that you wanted to break it before it became something all-consuming. Or even if you do have, a good, boundaries with it, you just didn't like the avenue it was taking you. But I think no matter what the extreme, it's so important to recognize, I think, just like the self-awareness in our own selves, like who we become with things and the power they have over us. Because I think we can allow things without realizing it or not to have this grip on us or this power over us.
Right.
And we might not even realize the weight that it's carrying. I don't know.
But how
Does
do
that
you
make
think,
sense?
I think we're coming to an end, which is great, but how do you think these generations younger than we are, and definitely younger than you are, how are they going to come to that realization? You know, what do you think? You know, just like my attention span, just like spans are literally changed in your brain. I think synapses are changed for your length of time of focus. What do you think the social media is going to do to the brain of the younger people who are still, their brains are developing?
I mean, I think
we're seeing it in
so many. I
schools.
mean, so many psychological adverse effects. But I think, unfortunately, a lot are not going to realize it until sometimes you have to go through something and hit rock bottom until you realize the problem. Unless people just develop the self-awareness or their parents have stronger boundaries with it. I think when they realize they can't hold a conversation for an interview, they're not financially independent, emotionally independent. They're in the same toxic cycle over and over and over. So really, I think it's an individualized kind of idea. I don't think there is an answer or a formula for it.
I do know this. We as parents don't have to live with the person who's in the basement playing video games instead of getting a job. You know, I think that's really important for us to step up to the plate and say, no, you kick the kid to the door kind of thing. I can see too, and maybe this is the moral of the story. I think we talked about the starvation of the mind, the body, the spirit.
You need to start feeding it with better things.
Yeah.
I mean, and again, there's no formula for it, but I will say from my almost 3 months off, my time has felt more purposeful, less hectic. I've embraced more rest and things that are so mentally stimulating. For example, relearning the Russian language again. Sarah Walters is teaching me my ukulele.
Oh, wow, you're learning the ukulele.
Yeah, I have a very closeted life in Greensboro now.
Oh, my goodness. So you're learning.
I'm not saying to be like, oh, here's pat on the back, but to say, reading again, like instead of, I made a rule for myself. When I delete my social media, I don't want to trade an obsession and rigidity.
Yes.
Same with running, which also, shameless plug, I wrote a post called 33 Days Without Running on AnnaGraceSmithPhoto.com.
I will
because I blog now instead of Facebooking.
No. Yeah.
Which is just like for my own good. Yeah, blogging, writing again. So many different things, but to where it's not like I'm just keeping busy. But I felt more intentional. Like even with people, I don't feel like anything has this grip or hold on me where I'm like, I don't know what to do with my time. And it's like learning this solitude is still like, that's a work in progress.
Right.
However, like I made the rule that I'm not going to just replace one habit for another.
Right.
That's literally like saying, all right, I've recovered from an eating disorder or alcoholism, so I'm going to go binge something else.
Yes. Yeah.
So I'm not going to trade one obsession for another. It has to be intentional and purposeful, and that's it. But I think the younger generation also, and I mean, not just younger, I think this really can go all across the board. Feeding yourself in healthier ways, not as, all right, let's just replace one habit for another, because that sounds good on paper. Let's replace it with a healthy habit. Well, if you're, have these like obsessive compulsive behaviors, that's only feeding the same obsessive compulsive behavior, whereas it's working to find a place more of neutrality and, and as the book I'm reading is talking about, like simpler living, but higher thinking.
Yeah.
And what I mean by higher thinking is like you said, the stimulation of creativity, which I think is intellectual in its own abstract form,
And it's such a rich thing that the Lord has given us our brains and our minds. And to miss that form of whatever the creativity is that is a moral creativity. I think at the end of the day, Anna Gray, we're not going to say, oh, I wish I spent more time on social media.
Exactly.
That's not a death. It used to be people would say, I wish I spent more time at work. I think now it's going to be social media.
Yeah. Like as a time waster. Yeah. And again, it's like, I think I don't think it means, oh, you have to delete all your apps. Because some people, like my mom, she could care less. She has it every now and then. We'll go on, but it's just
Instacart
nothing.
is really important to me, but I don't linger on Instacart.
I'm not saying like for all apps, but just things that keep you like, all right, here's like the click and the constant grip it has and having to go back to it over and over and over and over. And you come down from reality, your problems are still the same. Things aren't resolving. You're running more and more and more. And it's, we're just...
It's empty. It's an empty life. So the moral of the story, I think what you were saying is the Bible tells us over and over, think upon these things. What is good? What is worthy? What is excellent? What is praiseworthy? I think when we, like you said, we think of higher things. We invite the Lord into our moments instead of what someone's saying.
Or having to capture it, yeah.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love seeing the sunset for what it is, and which is a form of worship rather than just working on getting the perfect lighting for it. The aha moment of a sunset.
It's like admiring and appreciating what is right in front of you, and I think we've lost that. And I won't get off on a tangent because I know we're like wrapping it up, but there's something really beautiful. Even watching the fireworks last night, or like in Florence, Italy, watching, like hiking to the top of Michelangelo Square and everyone watching the sunset. It's like together, you all are appreciating the same thing. You are marveling at something that you don't need to travel for. You don't need to pay thousands of dollars on airfare for. I tell people, I'm like, if you want to see beauty, look up. Literally look at the sky. That's look around you. Look at the light. Literally, when I say look within, I don't mean that in a woo-woo kind of way, but like we genuinely are the most fearfully and wonderfully made creatures. And there's so much within us, so much beauty within us. And
the mitochondria, all that, the makeup of a cell is
that is so fascinating that we don't need a screen to
I think what you're saying,
over.
Again, and we've come to this conclusion several times, is social media. The moral of this story is we are losing our eye for beauty.
Yes.
Our true
by the
eye.
shite and kitsch.
Well, but even the idea of us looking to our friendships, to looking to nature, to looking at reading quality books, or or writing or journaling, where that kind of beauty, where we're giving it up for a quick fix.
Yep. Because it's not even, social media doesn't even require something from us. It gives it all. Other things require us to ultimately kind of sacrifice something too. Like, I'm going to give up my time to practice this and be bad at something.
I love it that you are. Yes, like dancing.
Yeah.
And now the ukulele. Congratulations.
Yeah. And there's plenty more than that. I'm not saying that to be like, oh, here's the great things I'm doing, but to say without social media, I think come July, I'm probably going to delete my apps for good. Delete all my accounts. Yeah. Because it's been really good. Yeah. So catch us on our blog.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, I love this. Thank you so much for being so honest and challenging to the rest of us.
Thanks for deleting your Reel usage sobering up from Elon Musk.
Well,
for a month.
What can I say? But no, except for I do think the one thing we want to do is use our lives and our times wisely. And in that, we are glorifying the Lord.
Yep,
so we just say amen, amen. And this is a Moral Tea wrap.
Shalom. Also, I like the fact that I drink out of
I know, that's your favorite one.
mug.
It's a handcrafted mug. Hey, I'm Renee Leonard Kennedy.
And I'm Anna Grace Smith.
And we make up
Moral Tea Podcast.
Yes, we're so glad that you're listening to us. And we want to encourage you to like and subscribe at
Moral Tea Podcast on YouTube,
at pray.com,
and Instagram at Moral Tea Podcast.
Yes.
We will catch you every Monday.
Bye.
Peace.